Welcome to Retro Reprise Commentary on the Batman video. My name's Adam SL. I'm the guy who puts the show together. And this is a commentary track or kind of a vlog with the footage being played in the background. So if you're someone who's not into that, and I completely understand, then I'm going to put a card up if you're watching from YouTube. And if you click on that card, it'll take you to the original video so you can watch that. So if you're watching from your phone or a computer, you can click on that and go to that video. For those of you who are going to stick around, I only have about 20 minutes, so I'm going to just jump right into stuff. This is really, I'm doing this for a couple of reasons. One, it gives me a second to debrief and kind of talk about the stuff that I was doing to put these videos together. And the other thing is to kind of hopefully show you guys a little bit of the inside track here. Show you guys what I was doing and stuff like that. So to start off with, let me give you a little bit of history on the channel and the idea behind it and what I'm trying to do with it. Retro Reprise, the channel was started about 3, maybe 4 years ago, and I wanted to do this walkthrough series where I show people games and walk them through it. Now, if you normally go and find a walkthrough video, you get a video of video game capture footage of someone who plays the game really well, but there's no real dialogue going on with it. And you just watch somebody play a game very well. That's about it. And over the past, I'd say about 5 years or so, Let's Plays have become more popular. And Let's Plays aren't really a lot about the game, but more about the personality of the person who's playing the game. And so even though you might have somebody who does explain how to do things in a game, they may not explain all of it, or there's periods of time where there's just a lull, or the gameplay is being real repetitive, it's just or just grinding through things. So I wanted to take the concept of both of those and kind of smash those together. And even that in its own way is not very original. There was a show that was out for a while called Until We Win by a guy named Lordkat. He was part of the That Guy with the Glasses crew. And it was a fantastic show. And he mostly dealt with 8-bit, 16-bit games that were really hard, and that was sort of the theme of his show, that these were really hard games, and he was going through and beating these really hard games and kind of telling you how to do it. He's since stopped doing that. He used to do like a game a week, which is just, that's a killer schedule to put together. And he's gone on, he has a podcast. If I can find a link, I'll leave that in the description, so you can click on that if you want to check him out. But I still highly recommend watching that show and watching that channel if you haven't seen it. So, yeah, I'm kind of, in a sense, doing that. Like I said, he stopped doing the show, and I really thought about it for a long time. And I thought about what I wanted to see on YouTube, and a walkthrough show done as closely to, like, say, a television show as you could get is what I would have liked to have seen. And so I decided to try to create that on my own. And fast forward to today. And that's what I'm still trying to do. Now, when I had started my channel, I did a Mega Man video. That one's still up. If you don't watch it, I don't blame you. It's extremely boring. I'm trying to incorporate a little bit more personality in my voice. I'm not an actor. I'm not someone who's used to being in front of the camera. So I don't have that skill set, or I'm working on building that skill set. And even in the Batman video, I can tell in times I'm just not as energetic as I need to be on camera. But overall, I think I'm pretty satisfied with the end result. But yeah, that's the idea, is that I'm not necessarily trying to show people the hardest games in the world. I want to show people some really cool games, and not only show them that these cool games exist, but here's how you go through and beat these games. And even if you're not very good at video games, or retro games are really hard for you, that hopefully with some of the things that I'm showing you here, that you can get through them. And that's kind of the idea. Now, the next thing I'm going to get into here is why am I doing Batman? Because this wasn't actually the first video game that I had picked. In fact, I had already captured footage and had started a script on a different game, and the idea was to have the channel launch in January. And while I was working on the script, I really had thought about what I could do to get people to watch the channel, and I come to the conclusion that, first of all, launching something in January was a bad idea, and second of all, no one was going to watch that game. So I thought about my plans a little bit further, and came up with the idea of showing Batman. And that all comes down to the YouTube algorithm. Now, I'm not an expert on it. In fact, a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about, I'm not an expert on. I'm just trying to get things put together. But from what I understand from the algorithm, you have certain things that the algorithm looks for. One, it looks for consistent uploads. Well, I'm not going to be able to do that. Just with I'm an average working Joe, I don't really have time to really throw out content consistently as much as I would like to. It takes a long time to put this stuff together. I'm not always going to have it out at the same time every time. So that's one of the things that it looks for. The other thing it looks for is frequency of release. So if you can release a video once a week, that's great. If you can release something once a day, that's even better. And if you can release something multiple times a day, that's the best. The algorithm loves that. And I can't really do that. Again, this goes back to having time, having a day job, a 9 to 5, working, being an average working Joe. Just can't do that. So it came down to some other factors, and one of those is that it likes videos that are longer than 10 minutes. It considers that, longer form content, which that's easy for me to do because these videos will at least be anywhere from 15 minutes longer and up. So that would be easy for me to accomplish. And then the other thing is that I find that the retro world doesn't really mesh well with is modern day talking points. It likes everything to be relevant. And that's the thing with retro gaming, is that it's not very relevant. It's not about relevance. It's about nostalgia normally. And so you got to find a way to get the algorithm to work with you. And so I'm hoping, now I don't know yet because the original video, by the time I'm recording this, the original video hasn't hit yet. It's still a couple days out from actually being released. So I'll see how that works. But hopefully with appropriate tagging and naming the video and all that stuff, hopefully I can get some views and maybe get some subscribers. So what I had to do was look at what was going to happen down the road. And I decided that January was pretty much a dead time. There wasn't really, at the time I was putting these together, the adpocalypse hadn't hit yet. But from what I understood, that advertisers really like that time between September to about Christmas. And it makes sense because that's when they would dump a lot of money into YouTube and people would get paid. But I also think that's when a lot more videos are being created. The reason why I think that is because that's when you have the fall television schedule with all these different shows that are coming out. You have really huge blockbuster movies that are coming out in this time frame, and any kind of toys, gadgets, electronics, whatever is coming out. A lot of that's coming out during the fall, so people can buy these items for Christmas. So you have unboxings and people talking about tech and whatnot. So I had to really look at the schedule of what was coming out and what I could tie into. And the game that I'd originally picked, still coming out in January of 2018, but it's just not relevant. It's just not tying into anything. So I decided to look at what was coming out. And in November of 2017, if you're watching this from the future, this is November is when the video comes out, or came out. I'm having trouble with my tenses here because some of you will be watching this video in the future. You'll be watching this 2018, 2019. Some of you will be watching it a week after the original video came out. So I don't know. I'm not quite sure how to address everybody. But going back to what I'm saying here is that in I looked at the schedule of things that were happening, and I thought, well, movies would be maybe an easy way to tie things in. And I looked at what was coming out in November of 2017. Well, there was Thor Ragnarok, which I actually just saw. It came out last week. Pretty good movie. But there really isn't an old school video game dedicated to Thor. So that really wasn't going to work. And the other movie that was coming out in 2017, November 2017, is Justice League. Now, there is a Justice League fighting game that came out for the Sega Genesis, and it's absolutely awful, and I don't own it. But it's a horrible game, and I didn't really want to go over that game. And it's hard to go over a game that's like a fighter, and that's what it is. It's a tournament fighter game, so it doesn't really qualify for the type of show that I want to do. But Batman has had a lot of games out since then, and so I decided to concentrate on Batman. He's a member of the Justice League, and so I can tie it into the Justice League stuff that's going on. I believe it's called tentpole marketing. But I call it riding the hype train. So there should be the week that Justice League gets released is when my video will drop. And hopefully that will be able to tie in with the other videos. And the algorithm will sit there and go, oh, well, he's mentioned Justice League. He's mentioning Batman. He's talking about comic books. We're going to move his video up in these different spaces so you can watch this video that's kind of related to Justice League, because everybody's going to be talking about Justice League. Any comic book people are going to be talking about it. Any movie people are going to be talking about it. And usually any kind of like entertainment type channel will be talking about it. So that's what I'm trying to do, is tie in with all that stuff and get Batman to be seen. I'm going to take a sip of coffee here. And so that's why Batman was picked. Basically because I think that the algorithm will actually, work positively with that. And so I'm doing the same with December as well. So if you're watching in the future, you already know what game is coming out, and I put a trailer at the end of this video for it, but it's going to be Star Wars. It's going to be a Star Wars game, because Star Wars The Last Jedi comes out in December. And so that'll tie into that as well. So I'm going to ride the hype train with Star Wars as well. And hopefully, when in doing that I'll get views and hopefully get some subscribers with that as well. So you kind of have to figure out that that's what you got to cater to. So the idea right now is that in months where there's big movies coming out, or there's television shows worth talking about that have somehow maybe have a Nintendo game or a Genesis game or something out there that I can talk about, I can go over that game. And then in the off months, those are the months where I can actually talk about the games that I want to talk about. And that's hopefully how that'll work. That's hopefully that's the idea. So, it looks like I've actually got some time to talk about some stuff besides just the YouTube algorithm, which is kind of boring stuff. But so this was a first. This was a couple of firsts for me as far as putting this channel together and just doing this sort of soft relaunch of my channel. The first thing is that I wrote this very similar to how studios write for television shows. I actually wrote 3 episodes and then did the filming for the 3 episodes all in one day, and then I'll do voiceovers as each video gets done, I'll do a voiceover for the next one and then the next one, and then edit them and put them together. So I've had these scripts done for quite some time, and that's how I kind of have a little bit of a schedule put into place. So with doing it in this style, it really helped me kind of get down my structure and sort of file maintenance and organization and stuff like that, because you have a bunch of stuff that you have to keep sort of straight while you're doing it. A couple of other things that I used, I was using new software as well. One of the first things that I was using was some software that I got a while ago, and I still think it's out there that you can get if you're someone who does scripted writing. There's a program called Celtics. Now they've kind of gone to a service, kind of like Photoshop. But you can do a lot of cool stuff with it. So it's like you pay a monthly fee and you have access to their software, and there's like a cloud service. And so if you're working on a script and you have somebody else who's working on a script, let's say that you're in New York and they're in LA, and you're both working on a script, you can both work on it simultaneously in real time and see changes. But they originally had a program that you could download, but it's called Celtics, and it takes a little bit of getting used to, but the learning curve is not that bad. So if you're someone who's trying to write scripts and you want your scripts to look formatted the way that I suppose they're supposed to be, then that's the way you use Celtics. If you can find the downloadable program, I definitely recommend it. It's great. You can put a ton of notes in there about different camera changes, different stuff that you're doing in there, as well as writing your dialogue. It's fantastic for that. The other thing that I did was I have a 2009 MacBook Pro that originally that I wanted to get for video editing and audio editing. And I finally broke down and got Final Cut. But since it's an older Mac, Final Cut Pro X, which is the one that's out now, is not really the good one to go with. So I went with Final Cut Express 4 HD. And there's a huge learning curve with that. It took me about a week to get everything down. And I ended up having to re-edit the entire video because it would make the video in the wrong aspect ratio. So what you're seeing it in is 16:9, but it was putting things in 4:3 and then putting bars on the top and bottom. And we're getting close to the end of the video here, so I'll be wrapping up soon. But yeah, I spent some time learning new software and messing up and just about crapping myself when I found that when I rendered out this video, which the renders can take out a long time. When I'm talking about rendering, when you finish putting all these clips together to put a show together, you have to render it out. And depending on the bit rate and how you're putting it all together, it can take a couple hours. And so after 2 hours, you find that it doesn't render out correctly or it looks like crap. You just about crap yourself, especially when it takes you a week to get all of this stuff edited together. So I had to go back through and re-edit the video completely from scratch because the settings weren't appropriate. They weren't set up correctly the first time. So I had to get to doing that. So we're hitting the credits now, and I want to thank everybody for joining me with this. I'm just rambling on. Like I said, it's 20 minutes, so there wasn't really a whole lot I could get into with as far as details. But the next game, which is going to be Star Wars Republic Commando, really good game. It's a game that a lot of people have forgotten about. That's going to be the next video. That's going to be at least 40 minutes long, from what I understand right now. So that one I can get into a lot more stuff, and hopefully get to talk to you about that. But I'm gonna jump off of here. I'll see you guys later. There's going to be a link up to a controller review that I did for the Super Retro controller. Check that one out. And I will see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.